Once again, welcome to another episode of our podcast series dedicated to Tiro Mpane National Choral I Stand Forward. With me, I have Letlogonolo Moaisi, who will be helping us, especially conductors, especially choristers, to unpack the technicality around, the music. We have what we call the artistic committee, and Letlogonolo has been, doing very well in that element where they actually sat and actually spoke about how is it that they develop, choristers, how they develop conductors. And today I think it's the day where now we say to Letlogonolo, tell us exactly why you went that route. Because, a lot of times, a lot of people would, comment and say, it is hard to source music. It is hard to actually get this particular song that we want. Because I think in the past, choirs were fed with music to say this is the music that is available. But in this case, the Tiro Mpane Foundation National Choral Stedford, they actually, gave, conductors, some homework to do to actually go and, source music. So today, this podcast is actually dedicated, along the lines of technicalities, when it comes to music. So welcome, Letlogonolo, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, Theron. And also Dumelang Sanbonani to the Choral Network as a whole. Thank you very much for inviting me to your podcast.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Letlogonolo, there is this thing. I think on social media, people are complaining. People are saying, you gave us a task, that is really, hard for us. And I don't think it is hard. I think it's what was known before in terms of, composing songs for a particular competition. So now you said, choirs, have the ability, or rather it's their discretion to actually choose their music, and you just left it there, but you gave them, a time period. For the large ones there is a time period, for the standard ones there is a time period. Take us through that. Why did you do that, and what are you intending to achieve as the artistic committee?
Yeah, those are quite valid concerns, Theron. Maybe let's start there. We cannot underestimate them at all.
Yeah.
But what the choral music people can be confident about is that the committee of the TMF NCE thought this through.
Yeah.
We sat down, we tried to think about this before we prescribe. And just like any other organization or Stedford, there are themes for each year's prescription.
Yeah.
So this is our maiden year, so it's our premiere.
Yeah.
So we chose to go with this particular theme.
Oh yeah.
Being obviously Western, introducing the operettas and light operas, and with the African going the route that you've just mentioned. And for the mere fact that it's a bit different, obviously it will have some backlashes here and there,
definitely.
because people are used to just getting a prescription list to say these are the songs that we want. But as I said initially, we try to really think about it to say, number one, it is not a good idea to actually box musicians.
Yeah, true.
You're starting a competition and you're boxing musician, you say 3 songs and that's it. So we said, for this year, let us just open it up. However, we gave guidelines. And I'm speaking now for the African music, as you said.
Yes.
And then hence we said for the standard category, they go with any composition, any choral composition of their choice, as long as it's written, structured, and also a composer that was born, or by the composer that was born before 1960.
Oh yeah.
And another guideline to that was, or a guiding principle was, that it should not be accompanied by piano.
Oh.
So it should be a cappella.
Oh yeah.
So still on that, before I move on to large, in addition to what you were saying, some of the interesting questions we get were like, what if my song has got a djembe drum somewhere? Do we consider that
as an accompaniment?
Because which, think about it, it is accompaniment,
Yeah, it
part of
is.
it. But a simple and short of it is that piano accompaniment is referred to as a holistic accompaniment because it is an instrument of indefinite pitch. So it actually assists in terms of harmony, it assists in terms of pitch. So a drum cannot therefore be compared to a piano accompaniment. So you can do a song that is if there is a song that is composed before 1960 and has a djembe drum somewhere, feel free to do so, because it's not piano accompaniment. And then moving on to the large, then we said for the large, from the composer from 1960 up to now, which is your Nomia. By the way, the standard is before 1960, not until 1960. Before 1960. So these ones, 1960 to date. And then these ones can actually be, or should actually be, accompanied, be piano accompanied.
Interesting. And I think that also, gives choirs, the ability to go and, choose songs that will actually form part of, a musical, a celebration of musical brilliance. And I think another interesting thing was that, choirs could only sing, I think 3 choirs in standard could only sing one song on the other category. So that actually gives them, give the audience, a number of opportunities to listen to different types of songs. Why did you choose that route, if I may ask?
You mentioned a very important word, audience. It's easy for us to think that our choral network is very small. But sometimes it's because we're not doing enough. I mean, humbly so, I think sometimes we're not doing enough to expand on it. For example, if you're taking a choral audience, you put them inside the hall for the whole day and they're listening to just 2 songs or 3 songs for the entire day. It's not fair. Yeah, so you bring them in for whatever it is that they paid, plus choral music audience they love this thing. So at least when you're giving them a variety, it will be worth it for them. And it also, at the same time, remember what's interesting about the choral music audience is that they themselves are adjudicators in their own right. So they'll be sitting there wondering, we wonder how adjudicators are going to deal with choirs competing in the same category but singing different songs. So it becomes interesting in that way. And then also, these are not songs that some of them don't know. These are songs that most of these choral lovers know. But it is interesting for them again to see how choir A or choir B came up with their own interpretation of a particular song, instead of just listening to one song or 2 songs for the entire day.
And it actually takes me back to this question then, to say, how do you then address issues of how do I access music? Because that's I think that's a main now. To say, for the past 15 years, I've been competing as a choir, and I've been, sent through a booklet with, prescribed songs. I didn't necessarily have to go, source this music. How do you address that, and why do you think the artistic committee came up with the decision?
Great question indeed. Great question, because those are concerns that we get a lot regarding this. But what's beautiful about it is that this type of prescription, or should I call it these guideline principles, they come up with a lot of lessons. There are a lot of lessons that come with it. And it gets to show us that the choral music industry goes beyond just voices. And there are other people, there are composers behind, and there are people that actually document the music. There are people that typeset the music, and there are people that deal with the legal matters of the music. So first of all, in terms of accessing the music, I know I'm not at liberty to promote certain sources of music on the net, but they can go into the net.
It's accessible.
It's accessible on the net, for especially your Western compositions. And when it comes to your African, in fact, still on the Western compositions, obviously, when you get there, the first challenge is that they would find music typesetted in tonic solfa. In staff notation.
Okay.
And our choirs are sort of like, I would say they're used to dual notation now, which is staff notation plus the interpretation of the translation into tonic solfa.
Oh, yeah.
So then it says to them, I have to find a typesetter to translate it into tonic solfa.
Yeah.
So now that's a lesson there as well to
Yeah,
say,
true.
oh, by the way, I didn't know there's such a person as someone who transcribes the music and actually typesets, which is another business aspect
Yeah, true.
of choral music, because that person also sits down and spend time, depending on how many bars we have. They spend 2 days sometimes or 3 days just working on your music. So that's another opportunity they created for typesetters. And on African music as well, it's now the matter of the families of the composers, if the composers are no longer alive, or the composers themselves. Most of the time, our composers' music is just utilized and our composers get nothing out of it.
Yeah, true.
And it is really unfair if you think about it, because besides the fact that this is their intellectual property, but they took their time to contribute immensely to the choral industry.
Indeed.
Because this choral industry would be starved of music or content if they were not there to write.
True.
So if we do their music, it's only befitting that there's something that they earn from it, whether it's them directly or it's the custodians of their music, which is their families, or whoever it is that's handling the rights of their music. I think it is only right and proper that route is done. So again, that's another lesson that we are learning. So when this competition is not there to say we want people to pop out money for everything, but it is there to create awareness as well, to say there are certain aspects of this music thing that we're talking about that you need to consider.
And I like that. And, this is evolution in choral music. I mean, imagine, a choir that comes from the rural Rustenburg, because that's where I come from, and you give them such a task, you have embedded something on that particular conductor to say, who was not even aware that they could actually access music online. You give them, something that will actually benefit them tomorrow, to say, in future, if I want to sing a particular song, this is where I can go and access that music. I always tell people, us in photography industry, you pay for the pictures that you want to use. They have a copyright, protection on that. And I think it is only fair that, the IP, the IPs of composers be protected as well, because these people take time, they dedicate their lives in, writing this music. And I believe that the artistic committee really did a good job on that. And then also, I also wanted to find out from your end, to say, now here we have, choirs that will be singing the Western, songs. You chose a particular, genre, which I found it very interesting. And I think it really created a conversation. People were excited, and that 2 songs per choir really, created a conversation and a demand as well, because, people kept on saying, oh, I wonder if, people have taken so and so, because that could be one interesting piece. And also one would say, I wish choir A can actually choose this. You can see that, these people, they know their music. And I wanted to find out, what is the difference between, the Western pieces in, large and in standard?
Oh, yeah. Interesting question indeed. As I said when we started this episode, is that we decided to go with this genre called operetta.
Okay.
So in the standard category, we have a mixture of operetta, light operas, and opera. But with the main one being operetta that we were trying to put into the space. So the operetta is not different at all from your opera. So you can almost compare it to a musical. So when you think of a musical, that's what operetta is to opera.
Yeah.
So it's lighthearted, and the difference would be just Operators have got spoken dialogues at times, and then operators have got a lot of instrumental music as well, which give a guide, and it's lighthearted. So you don't find serious themes in operetta. So even the singing itself, well, predominantly the operattas are in German, are written in German, but you do not get these very serious themes and this very serious thing. Most of the music is melodious, it's catchy tunes. So yes, so this is the type of thing that we're trying to introduce, because it brings about, there's a particular technique as well that is required in this particular genre.
That is lovely. I can't wait to actually witness the first, inaugural regional, eliminations in Gauteng. But I wanted you, in conclusion, to actually, lay this to the audience, to say, what is it that when the artistic committee would be sitting on the first, would be their achievement, out of the music that you've prepared? What is it that you're actually looking forward to achieve? Because I think, there's a reason why you decided, to go with that particular, prescription on the Western, and then you decided to go with the twist, on the African. What is it? Because I see the stakes are very high. For one to actually proceed, to the finals, they need to attain a particular, final mark. And that for me, it actually shows that choirs must work extra hard. Explain that in detail, and in closing, just try to to summarize what exactly is it that you are looking forward to, given the prescription that you did, in the Western and the twist that happened in the standard.
We did this because we cannot, when we do not want to, underestimate our choral practitioners out there. We're doing this because we know just how creative they are. We're doing this because we know just how easily susceptible they are to growth and change. So this is exciting for us because we know just how well they're going to do. Like, we're anticipating fireworks, really, because we know they're going to do well in this case. And basically as well, it's just to display and portray this brilliance, excellence in choral music with this genre, with this prescription that we have. Our assessment of this would be, I don't want to say an interesting one, but would be the one that is actually sort of transparent and also gives feedback to the people. Because for the first time, if I'm not mistaken, we are going to make a statement before the competition to send out the rubric so that they know what we will be looking at, or what the adjudicators would be looking for or looking at in the music, so that you know how to actually prepare for your performance. I mean, they know, they are musicians, they know what to do, but it's also nice to know what the adjudicators are looking for. And I think what's interesting about the tool that the adjudicators will be looking at as well is that when the artistic committee sat down and looked at how choral music is assessed, we are not just looking at it for the sake of TMF NCE, but we're looking at it for the entire choral network.
It's broad.
To say, one of the mistakes that we make is to create assessment tools that does not allow the adjudicator to actually enjoy the visual aspect of the music. This whole thing writing, and you end up missing other tools. So you end up missing other things that are going on stage. So in as much as it will give feedback, but it will be the one that actually allows the adjudicators to sit and give them time to listen and see what is happening on stage. But unfortunately, I cannot divulge everything that is on the rubric at the moment, but in due course, they will see exactly what is expected.
But that's very interesting, and I must say, it's very interesting to actually see, this evolution in the choral industry, where, choirs are not actually left to to be spoiled, in terms of how to source music, where to source it, and all that. You are saying to them, this choral music is a business. and you need to make sure that you go out there and make sure that you learn, you grow. From these conductors, you are trying to bring in a lot of composers. Tomorrow you will have two conductors that will have a knowledge or understand that this is a way in which one has to go through in terms of conduct or composing rather. And that actually builds up to composers as we go. And I think this is how choral music should be. As you are now saying to them and giving them a baton to say, this is a baton, run with it. You understand? And I really must commend on that, and I wish you guys all the best. The qualifying mark is quite high. And there's nothing wrong with being ambitious. I think from the onset, this competition really started on a high, and we can only look forward to that. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really look forward to the 1st of September. We really look forward to other regional eliminations. I think all these regional eliminations will actually bring back South Africa and make them united in song. Thank you so much for joining us. You've heard for yourselves, and we really appreciate your feedback. We really appreciate your time. Tickets are on sale for the 1st of September, and then also watch out on our social media platforms so that we can see where you can get your tickets, the next dates announcement. There will be a lot of activities on social media this week. Thank you so much for joining us today on this podcast episode. We shall see you again in the next one. Thank you so much and goodbye.